Afternoon, greetings and welcome. My name is Patricia. I'm affectionately known as Blaze. That tells you I'm like the sun. I love heat, I love energy, I like excitement, and I love warmth. And we are going to be getting all of that today, this afternoon, right here in Northwest London, in Brent, in the heart of Kilburn. I am always excited when I'm given this opportunity to be part of the Nubian Jak Community Trust, because that tells me, again, we are marking history. That tells me, again, we are leaving legacy. That tells me, again, that we are celebrating and we are coming together as the African Caribbean community.
Before we start, ladies and gentlemen, there is a protocol we have to do. The first person of the borough is going to give us a welcome. So can we give it up, ladies and gentlemen, for the wonderful, Her Worship, dressed in bling, Orleen Hilton. Thank you.
So thank you very much all for coming. I did not have a speech prepared. I'm just going to basically speak from the heart. I do recall, I think it's wonderful that the icons of reggae music, who help reggae music to come to where it is at this moment, are being celebrated and are being honoured and celebrated. They have a lot who have gone before us who have actually paved the way to what reggae is today. So my thing is to say thank you very much to those people, and I hope that there'll be a lot more plaques like this celebrating black people, Jamaican people, who have actually made an impact on reggae music. Sonny Roberts is a name that I remember growing up with. I didn't understand the significance of what he was doing at the time. I'm older now, not that much older, just a little bit. But he has, when I look back at the history and what he has done, it makes me really feel proud to be here today. And as the first borough of the citizen, who is of Jamaican descent, it makes me doubly proud.
My late husband, Sonny, we've been married for well over 54 years. Oh yes, oh yes. I was a student then, we fell in love, and somehow we matured and everything, and it was very nice, right. Sonny would be pleased if he was here today, more than pleased. So many people in England and Jamaica and Africa, we mustn't forget that. Yes. No Sonny Roberts, he was tall and good looking too. And very humble, very kind, always willing to listen, encourage young people, children he loved. Even the Observer in Jamaica, he didn't want to go 2.5 years ago when they gave him Lifetime Achievement Award. He says, V-man, I can't be bothered. Mr. Son, you have to go. Bob the Green is going to be there. Other people are going to be there. And I phoned him and said, he doesn't want to go down. And you know what they did? They sent a car for him. And it turned out to be lovely. Lovely.
How do we remember these contributions? And I want to start with, actually, Cleon. Because sometimes it takes a relative, a sibling, a daughter, a son, to actually feel so passionate about a contribution made by a parent that they take on that mantle. And she has done that, and she's a warrior in that respect. I worked on a project a few years ago, Brent Borough of Culture, and with all my years in the industry, it was that project that highlighted me to Sonny's contribution. When we were digging, looking for tangible evidence of Caribbean contributions to Black British music, it was in trying to establish Brent as the leading borough of reggae that I came across Sonny's contribution. And this is, in my case, I'm someone that's signed to Island Records, that worked for Trojan Records. I didn't know about his contribution. And so, first I want to give thanks to Cleon for not only bringing that to light, but has had a sustained effort in bringing that back to the community. Secondly, I want to talk about, again, how we remember. We remember things that are tangible, and often these contributions are not tangible. Not tangible because they're not physical in a way that we can touch them. The plaque is really important because we're moving something that's intangible onto bricks and mortar. Our culture lacks that solidity in terms of bricks and mortar. When it's intangible, it drifts away. And so by converting the memory into this small disc that will be revealed, it brings a tangibility, a physiology to this space, to the memory, to the contribution. But also, because I'm now working academia, it brings that contribution into a space, into a context that we can remember. This is history. This is Caribbean history, but it's also British history. So in terms of remembering, this has to be moved now into schools, into colleges, into universities. By bringing this to light, it's now something we can study.
I met Clinton Sonny Roberts in Jamaica during his retirement, but he was still very active. He shared his knowledge, experience, and his passion for music. The wisdom gained from someone who has made the journey from Jamaica to the UK and returned home with the same will and determination was invaluable. He was a true pioneer of the Windrush era, and of course we're celebrating Windrush 75 this year. And he had the strength and resilience to overcome the institutional barriers of his time. He had a keen ability to recognize and nurture talent. I commend Cleon's outstanding documentation of her father's story. And if you see the slide, it's actually 50 slides in the deck. So it is really comprehensive. And of course, as well as showcasing his significant body of work, which has just been mentioned, and most importantly, his lasting legacy. Thank you very much.
Hello everybody, nice to be here. I didn't know your husband, unfortunately, so it's rather odd to be asked by your daughter over there to come and say a few words. But it's funny because I can feel like I know him, because when you know somebody and you know what a great person they are, that tells you a lot about their parents. And I think you and your husband did a fantastic job with this lady. Yeah. Anybody who started a record company in 1961 must have either been a gangster or mad. And I'm going to say that I think he was probably mad. And he must have been a big music fan, because that's what gets things going. It's being a fan of the music.
My Uncle Son was an extremely ambitious person. Now the reason why, the sole reason, let me just set the record straight, yeah? That he set up a record label in 1961 was because he was ambitious and he had self-belief and he had a vision. Those are the reasons why he set that thing up and other things, yeah? So he was driven by an extraordinary sense of purpose. Now I know this because I've had the good fortune of actually working with him in the studio. So I've got some very funny stories to tell you at the reception. So sense of purpose, being a part of the Windrush generation with all the literal and metaphorical baggage that accompanied him from his beautiful homeland in Jamaica, he had the unenviable task, as did the entire Windrush generation of course, of resettling, readjusting his mindset, his life, his goals, and his aspirations in life. No mean feat. In a country that was not as welcoming as it purported to be. Not being one to be deterred by such challenges, Uncle Son settled right here in Halton, England, and pursued his trade as a carpenter. Now, when I tell you that this guy was an exceptional carpenter. Now, Uncle Son is, has a number of firsts, yeah, okay? Prolific person. A mere 3 years after moving to the UK, as you've heard, in '58, Uncle Son opened up Planetone, that's the name of it, Planetone, which was the first black-owned recording studio in Britain. He then created his own record label, Sway, and then renowned Orbitone record, which was highly successful. Notably, his greatest successes came with the release of Judy Boucher's Can't Be With You Tonight. And some of you may or may not remember, it reached #2 in the UK national charts and held that position for 14 weeks. So that was the first Caribbean female vocalist to enjoy the longest tenure in the UK charts. So I think that deserves a round of applause.
Sonny was the most humble. He was an entrepreneur. He was a trailblazer. He's an icon. And the man, the measure of the man, he could have, if he wanted to go to the stars, he could have gone to the stars. But Sonny was very happy with his lot. He was very sort of ambitious, which is true. And there were two things about Sonny. Music was he was passionate about his music. But I tell you, this song comes to mind, music was my first love. Music was Sonny's second love. Does anybody know what was his first love? Can anybody tell me? Do you know what? I actually thought that I was going to have to... no, listen. Before I came here, I thought, okay, they probably won't respond when I ask them this question. So I had this £50 note in my pocket, and I was going to take... And I knew that if I pulled this £50 out, but do you know what? You've surprised me. Sonny's family was everything to him. And Monica, the 3 children. This is what drove Sonny to work as diligently and as hard as he did. And I've got some amazing memories of going into that studio. Sonny always made the people who worked with him, he always fed them, made sure that they were not hungry. Food, and sometimes, I have to be honest with you, sometimes I was just passing, I thought, oh, let me go in and see Sonny. Because I know he was going to say, Rueben, you're hungry? I was always very shy, still am. And when Sonny asked me, when he said to me that, look, Rueben, I want you to make an album, I thought, no way, because I hated my voice. So I said to Sonny, in my defense, I thought he'd say, okay, let's leave it, let's forget it. I said, look, if I could sing like Ray Charles, if I could sing like Marvin Gaye, if I could sing like Sam Cooke, then perhaps we could do an album. He looked at me and he said, Ray Charles had a ting in him voice. Marvin Gaye had a ting in him voice. Sam Cooke had a ting in him voice. And there was silence. He's looking at me, I'm looking at him. He said, Rueben, you have a ting in your voice.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming. It's just overwhelming, and just to see, I mean, there's a crowd here, but there's a melee of people in the industry, different faces, great singers, great performers, actors, but there is one lady that I have to introduce, and she was here from the very beginning, and her name is Nelly, Ornell Welsh, my Aunt Nelly, and she was a musician. Aunt Nelly She's the Aretha Franklin, and I don't say that lightly, of the UK. This woman has a pair of lungs on her, seriously. And a super talented woman. If you ever get a chance, this is history here. This is significant history. The Marvels, they sang with Prince Buster, Don Drummond, you know, all the, you know, pop bands, you know, you backed.
And the Shah in Iran.
Shah in Iran. You know, the
Ken Dodd.
Ken Dodd.
Lulu.
Lulu. Come on.
Dandy Livingstone.
The Cimarrons, you know, the Cimarrons are here. So Aunt Nelly, you know, she came to the studio at a 15,
As a child.
as a
11
child.
years old.
11? Wow.
To play the piano.
I thought it was 15, but anyway, is that legal? Yeah, so you know, it's a fascinating story, which I'm sure I'm not going to really go into it for too long, but you will be able to read this story online. And she was, my father was looking for someone to play the piano, to be a session player, and it is a fabulous story. My uncle on my mother's side, Uncle Roy, my dad asked him, does he know of someone to play the piano, session player? And he's, you know, my dad was like really stumped and couldn't find anybody. And my Uncle Roy said, yes, I know of someone, but she's a woman, a young woman. And in walks this young girl who was a classic pianist. She used to play classical music. Again, I hate to say, this is a fabulous story, and again, this is history. As Mykeall said, there's a lot of history out there. We need to get talking about this. You need to research Mrs. Wilson. Theo, please come. Theo, please come. The three of us here are testament of Mrs. Wilson. Yes, our piano teacher. She's an amazing woman. She was based in Ladbroke Grove and Kilburn, and she taught hundreds of black children to play classical music. She took us all on a coach to the Royal College of Music. I'm talking hundreds of black children. I was 7 years old. Theo, you were how old? He was one of the first to produce Afrobeat in the UK, and I don't say that lightly. Here is testament. Our fathers were business partners, and they brought a 9-piece band from Nigeria in 1970 to the UK to perform the Nkengas. Google the Nkengas. And he produced that band as a Jamaican man, as a producer. And you know, the record sold truckloads in Nigeria.
It did, it was a hit for 3 years.
A hit for 3 years in Nigeria. Yeah, and that's how we met as children.
It's true.
And our fathers carted us to go and learn how to play the piano.
Sonny said, okay, young girl. Yeah. And he said, grab the piano and do your stuff. And there was the bongos, there was the drummer, there was a bass player, and we did the boogie woogie, and everybody says, yeah. And they said, can you sing? I said, can do a little bit that I did with my grandma. You know, the Lord's Prayer in harmony. And they said, okay, well, we're going to do a 12-bar beat and boogie woogie. And we started to hum and sing. And two of the fellas said to me, how would you like to join a group? I said, have you got a group? They said, no, but we can make one. So we all participated and started to choose names for this group that we're going to be in. Sonny was behind the glass looking, and he came out and he says, what you doing, man? We're doing the boogie woogie. I says, no, we're also going to create a group. And one of the members says, Bluebird, I think it was. I said something different, and one said the Marvels. And that rang a bell. That time we didn't even know about the Marvels comic. We had no idea. And that was the group that was the name that we chose to be the Marvels. And we went very successful. All over the world, you name it. You know, kings, queens, Top of the Pops, the lot.
work with big stars. And Sonny was always there in the background encouraging us. So this day is for him, not for me. And we must remember him and give him his due as one of the first black studio in London.
I came down here trying to figure out where was 108, and I couldn't. I got involved with the council, archives, they still couldn't find where 108 is. So the fact that she's found it is enough to give her a round of applause. So in case you don't realize, you're going to see the plaque in a moment. But let me tell you, over there, that building there, I do believe was called the Shakespeare, a pub. Oh, yeah. Because when I did the Brent Black music history, Sonny wasn't just, or the studio wasn't just used by Africans. A European pop group sent me a photo of them being there and said, hey, we used the studio, which was just a few feet away from this pub. So I've got a photo of a European group that used that studio. Okay, now I'm going to say something. I'm looking at him, Lee John. This is the second time I've met him in 2 weeks. He's always sending emails, but not, tweets. He's very good on the tweet. But now it's good to know that he comes to community events like this. So respect to Lee John.
Cleon, your family, I'm really privileged to be here, and this is a wonderful occasion. I mean, we're first generation, and if it wasn't because of you and Sonny, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing, seriously. And I'm really grateful to be here, and I can't wait for this to be unveiled because we need more of this. We need more support. We have a history, Black British history, which is very, very important, that I'm also involved in a project. I know there's my friend here, Mykeall Riley's also doing it. So I'm actually compiling the history of UK British Black music from the turn of the century till now. It's taken me nearly a decade to actually do, but I will get through it. You know, I'm keeping on with it, but you know, life is still going. I'm still singing.
This musician is here, and I said, you must gig a lot, because this guy is always tweeting his gigs all over the place, tweeting. Remember that this guy has been there since the 70s and he's still going.
80s.
80s.
We're celebrating 40 years of imagination.
I never came to the record shop here, but I knew Sonny when he was on Station Road, and I used to go into the record shop. I don't know who, I think it was Cleon, you mentioned in Kegas. I remember buying the album from the shop. I think Peter King was the...
Soulful Peter King.
I bought his album from the shop.
Fantastic.
So I did know, was it Sonny Roberts? And I think we need to say this, because I saw in the paper that like a developer of reggae, Sonny wasn't about reggae, it was about black music, and some of the musics like the other Caribbean musics and I don't say African music, continental African music, right? So we must not pigeonhole him to reggae just because he's Jamaican. He was wider than that. The fact, and it's been mentioned, the fact that he could get Judy Boucher to #2 in the national charts is no mean feat. That was without internet, that today people can use social media. If you do not have Radio 1, you do not have an advert in Music Week, it was very, very difficult to make it. A small indie company in Houston, by the way, Houston, Brent, is a home of what? Reggae music, that's what we promote, yeah. So we must not forget that he did break the barrier in the music industry. Can I say, I had the honor of giving Sonny an award. And if you see the video, because Colin is put it online in promoting this thing, he became emotional. It was probably the first award that he had had. He became emotional. The award was called the Industry Builders, I think it was called. So we gave it to Sonny, Chris Blackwell, Lee Gopthal. So as they found it, they all had a connection to 108, and also Palmer, Mr. Palmer, obviously we didn't have a connection, but he was in housing. So 108 is a very, very important location when we're talking about British black music.
Island Records were housed in the same building. Chris Blackwell, the founder of Island Records, this was their second offices, which was housed here in the same building. The building was owned by Lee Gopthal, the founder of Trojan Records. So you had three, they were on the ground floor. So you had three influential, you know, significant history, this building here. So, you know, I'm so pleased, you know, and the thing is as well, I used to work for the people that built this. That's how I managed to find out where the site is, because I used to work for the developers. Telford Homes built this building. So, you know, it was a struggle, but I got there. Anyway, I would like to call all the members of Sonny Roberts, his family. I'd like them all to come, please come forward, please. Before we have every single member that's here, cousins, extended cousins, everyone who is family, please come forward. So yes, we're all here. So this is us. Jack Bueller, could you do the honours, please? Yep. Thank you.
Thank you to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. And we're now going to unveil this plaque. If you've got your phones, we're going to do a 5 to 1 countdown. Let's get this on Insta, Facebook, TikTok. Let's do it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom, let's do it. Sonny Roberts, 1931 to 2021, pioneering music producer, catalyst for Trojan Records, established the UK's first black-owned recording studio on this site, Planetone Studios, 1961 to 1965. Ashe.